Normally, when it comes to German cars, it's the German automakers that are paving the way for the engineering advancements that other companies eventually try to copy. But in the curious case of the Auto Union 1000 SP, that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, it was really the other way around. This sleek German two-door was actually just a ripoff of the newly introduced 1955 Ford Thunderbird. Put the two cars side by side, and well, the similarities are uncanny. That was until you popped the hood, because what lied underneath was certainly no V8. No, it was something much weirder. But first, we need to dive into exactly why Auto Union, who was the company that included Audi at the time, copied the Ford Thunderbird in the first place. Auto Union was a relic of the World War II fascist Germany days, where corporate industry was conglomerated into a concerted effort to serve the state. Four key brands made up Auto Union, and they were Audi, Horch, Wanderer, and DKW. Not many of the offerings that came out of Auto Union were particularly interesting, and lots of them were really just bland commuter cars, designed to be financially viable in a wrecked post-war German economy. William Werner, who was in charge of Auto Union, traveled to the United States around 1955, which just so happened to be when the brand new Ford Thunderbird was released. And once he laid eyes on the T-Bird, he knew that this was the future of automobile design, not whatever Auto Union was making at the time. He rushed back home to Germany and informed the team at Auto Union that they needed something like the Thunderbird. Werner's fascination with the Thunderbird was then handed off to the chief designer of Auto Union, Joseph Dienst, who was tasked with creating a German version that went in the direction of the Thunderbird. And that is exactly what he did. In fact, maybe he even did it a little too well, because by 1957, the Auto Union 1000 SP was ready to finally be unveiled to the world at the Frankfurt Motor Show. And when the cover was pulled off of it, the 1000 SP captivated customers and journalists alike. Now, the 1000 SP was a great-looking car. It was sleek, it was sporty, and it looked miles better than anything else that Auto Union had really ever made in recent years, partially because the design is very evidently ripped off from the first-gen Thunderbird. With the exception of the roofline of the Auto Union car, which I actually think looks better than the T-Bird's, the similarities between the two are painfully evident. The front fascia, including the grille, headlights, and indicators, is almost identical to the T-Bird. Both cars sport a very defined hood scoop, and the side profile is also exceptionally similar for both cars, with just the fins on the Auto Union car having more sharpness and definition to them. The taillights of the Auto Union car were clearly heavily inspired from the T-Bird as well. Size-wise, the Auto Union knockoff was a much smaller car, with a wheelbase of 92 inches compared to the T-Bird's 102 inches. That size difference not only made the 1000 SP look like a mini Thunderbird, but it also made it over 1,000 pounds lighter than the 3,400-pound T-Bird. Now, with the Auto Union car being about 2,000 pounds, you might think that with such little weight, that this car would be a rocket ship. However, it was not, because the one thing that Auto Union couldn't match from the T-Bird was that glorious American V8. Under the hood of the 1000 SP sat a very interesting engine option, being a 981cc two-stroke inline three-cylinder engine. Auto Union sourced and based this engine off of a prior one from the DKW brand and put it into the 1000 SP. With a two-barrel carburetor on top, this little three-cylinder produced a whole 55 horsepower, which was enough to limp the 1000 SP along from 0 to 60 in 20 seconds, and it could reach a top speed of around 87 miles per hour. So realistically, the 1000 SP was the opposite of fast, partially because the chassis that underpinned the car was the generic Auto Union 1000 chassis that was also used for their less exciting economy cars. This chassis also meant that this Thunderbird clone was a front-wheel drive vehicle instead of being a rear-wheel drive one. It did, however, offer a column-shifted 4-speed manual. As you can now start to see, the German Thunderbird knockoff was beginning to show just how different it was underneath than its inspiration car. And we aren't done yet. Up front, the suspension setup for the SP was a transverse leaf spring and a lower A-arm setup, with the rear also being a transverse leaf spring just with a solid axle. Now, this wasn't a crazy suspension setup, but with its lightweight and considerably smaller footprint, the 1000 SP was a more tossable car than the T-Bird when it needed to be hustled through the corners. But even then, the 1000 SP was not about brisk driving. This was a car meant to be a luxury touring car, very akin to the personal luxury coupe idea behind the Thunderbird, which meant that on the inside, the Auto Union car needed to be a nice place to spend your time. These cars came with vinyl seats and nearly fully trimmed door panels with plush armrests and nice chrome accents throughout. The dash was a simple sculpted flat panel, but the padding on the top of it helped tie it into the overall curves of the car more. It was elegant and classy looking, there's no doubt about it. And even though this car was considerably smaller than the Thunderbird, it still did offer back seats for that added bit of practicality. Ford sold 53,000 first-gen Thunderbirds from 1955 to 1957 before they updated the body style in 1958. So how many of these knockoffs did Auto Union sell? Well, from 1958 to 1965, when the 1000 SP was discontinued, Auto Union, now known as Audi, sold 6,600 of these cars worldwide. 5,600 of them being coupes, and the remaining 1,000 or so cars being convertibles. If you're sitting there thinking that's not a lot of cars, then you would be right. This car was not a real sales success at all, mainly because of its price. The 1000 SP cost around $4,000 US when it was new, which price-wise made it comparable to that of a new Thunderbird, plus a host of other cars that offered way more performance and comfort, especially here in America. Plus, the idea of a German two-stroke engine probably didn't bode well for many people, even though it was an extremely simple and easy-to-work-on unit. It just wasn't a great fit for the American market, and compared to the competition, it really wasn't ever the best choice. Auto Union was acquired by Volkswagen in 1965, and the poor sales numbers of the SP made it an easy vehicle for the new management to axe, thus ending the 7-year production lifespan of the 1000 SP. Now, I did rip on this car pretty hard, alluding to the fact that it really is a blatant knockoff of the T-Bird design-wise, and I do believe that. But at the same time, I can't deny that this is a neat little car, and because the underpinnings of it are so different than the Thunderbird, it's not really a one-to-one direct copy of the T-Bird, which I can respect. And with only 6,000 of these cars ever being made, they are pretty darn rare, yet they remain relatively affordable, with nice examples hovering around the high teens to high $20,000 range. So let me know in the comments down below what you think of this car. Do you think it's just a shameless T-Bird copy with no soul, or do you think it's a car that has enough differences to make up for the extremely similar styling? But as always, thank you all for watching another video. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me out. But otherwise, until next time, enthusiasts.